What is going on? My name is Jesse Lyon, dream scientist, dream interpreter, here to talk to you today about something I found very interesting over the weekend. Because if you're like me, I finished the Stranger Things season four, right? Season 4 episodes 2 days ago when they came out, July 1st. July 1st, and it is today, now July 3rd. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that because there are a lot of dream symbols inside of those last 2 episodes that you may not have noticed. There's many more in the further episodes, but as is usual, I'm a little bit behind the trend. So I'm going to talk about these 2 episodes that just came out so you can understand more. I do want to address something though. A lot of the things that I'm saying are not just pop culture-y. A lot of people kind of accuse me online of like, oh, well, you're a fraud. You don't know what you're talking about, as I feel like is usual. But there are, hundreds of books that I've read, years and years of study of doing this stuff, working with mental health, understanding the subconscious archetypes that we all have inside of us in order to help you understand and to give you this bare bones information of what's going on inside of Stranger Things so you can appreciate it more. And I know for me, like being able to understand these archetypes helps me appreciate the series so much more. So I want to share that with you. And if you stay through to the end, I think you're going to be pretty surprised just how much some of these characters make sense. But today, we are breaking down a couple things. So just to let you know, there will definitely be spoilers. You should watch out. If you haven't seen those last 2 episodes, please click away now. Don't continue watching because well, I'm definitely going to be talking about some of these things. So let's jump into it here. I'm going to scroll down to the side corner, right? We're going to test out a couple formats for doing this. This is one format. We may change it up. Let me know what you think. Does this work for you, or should I change the format of this in the future? But let's jump into this. We're talking today about this guy, right? Broke all of our hearts. There were several things that happened in the series that we were not very happy about. Some people died that we wish wouldn't have. Definitely some tears shed. What's interesting is if you want to be a good story writer and you want to create a good evil character, Stranger Things did a great job, and any great story will be able to do this same job because they got to follow the same pattern. Now, the reason you have to follow the same pattern is just the same way that we're able to interpret dreams. The human brain follows a pattern for characters and for stories. And if you know and are educated about that pattern, you can follow that pattern and really grip people in the story. A lot of times when people make stories and they aren't very compelling, they don't sell well, they don't perform well on the charts, it's because they didn't have an understanding of the basic human pattern of archetypes. Now, when I'm talking about archetypes, I'm talking about these basic characters that we all play. The reason that stories are so compelling is we can identify usually with each of the characters. And so all of those characters live inside of us. And because we're able to empathize with each of them, we get very much drawn into the story. And so the reason that one does such a good job in, well, I just spoiled it for you, right? Vecna is one, right? The reason that one does such a good job is because they perfectly follow the bullet points for the Satan archetype. And I'm going to tell you why. When you're looking at one, right, you wouldn't think that he would be Satan because he's dressed all in white. He seems very friendly. He's got this very light blue eyes and white blonde hair, and he's very friendly and very kind. Now, that's not just to kind of throw you off the scent. They're not doing that to try and pull a fast one on you. That's actually very, very intentional, and it has to be done in order for the story to make sense. And this will happen in your dreams. A lot of times people will contact me about seeing kind of a white character in their dreams, or like a figure like that, or being in a white room is also very common. White is actually a color of death. When people dream about death and blackness, shadows, that's actually where life comes from. Think about outer space. Energy and life and potential comes from the blackness, the emptiness of outer space. It's actually white that is the color of sterility. It can be associated with virginity and purity, but that's really where they get you, because in order to have virginity and purity, you kind of have to have sterility. And when I say sterile, I mean nothing can grow. It's absolute death. It's perfectly white. Nothing can be in there. See, in the shadows, things can live. There are certain things that can, happen and grow. Out of the darkness, things come. That's why we get so scared of the darkness, because things can live in there. If something is perfectly white, it is completely dead because you can see that nothing is there. And so, what's actually really cool about this is one perfectly embodies that being of absolute death. Now, there's a second layer to this, right? One is a very masculine archetype. And the reason that one turns into Vecna, which seems so different, but actually is the same, is because one wants to have this absolute perfectionism, right? Because of this absolute perfectionism, there is this absolute death. And so it's really interesting for people when I work with them for mental health is they all want to be perfect and they all want to grow and do the right things, but actually it's the wrong goal, because you can see if we were to do things absolutely perfectly, one has a very good idea of the way that the world should work. Anybody who is weak or anybody who has something wrong with them or anybody who has pain inside their mind should die because they aren't fitting the greater hive mind. They aren't fitting the greater progress and the momentum that he wants to bring to being a living being. Coincidentally, if we're going to be honest, this is the same thing that Hitler did, right? If you were homosexual, which he thought was bad, if you were handicapped, which he thought was bad, if you were Jewish, which he thought was bad, you should be put to death because you are not contributing to the further and betterment of the human species. And what's very interesting about Hitler, he wanted to make the human species the perfect Aryan race, white hair, blue eyes. And now you might think this is like, oh, okay, wow. So this cultural stereotype of, white hair, blue eyes came from World War II. No. What's actually very interesting is it's predated even that. But let's take a little bit of a journey together, okay? I think the point that I want to drive home to you, though, as you're listening to this, is your perfectionism is, if you want to use religious terms, your perfectionism is Satan. Your perfectionism is death. It is encouraged to not be perfect. But let's take a journey together about this archetype and see where it goes. I think one of the best examples of this archetype is in a anime called Devil May Cry. Devilman, Devil May Cry Baby. And this is the character Rio, right? Now, Rio seems to be the good guy in the beginning. And just look at how uncanny this symbolism is. They're the same person, dude. Like if you were to take this guy one and draw him as an anime, that's what you would come up with. And so you can see like it's exact, like even down to the white collared shirt with the button all the way to the top. Like there are some very particular stereotypes that we as human beings have inside of our mind because of just being connected as human. And so in the show, you should definitely watch the anime. It's amazing. Maybe I'll tag some of my favorite anime content creators here. Rio seems to be the good guy in the beginning. He's kind of guiding and leading this character, Akira, right? And so Akira is being led by this guy. And he seems nice in the beginning, but he turns out in the end to be Satan, right? So I'm kind of spoiling that one too. Uh, but it follows this same story arc. And that's why it's so captivating. Now, coincidentally, another storyline that follows this character trope, character kind of development is Harry Potter. Because if you look at Draco Malfoy, look at this, the same person. You see it's the same person if you were to make them into anime. 1, 2, 3, all the same. Now that's done very intentionally because this has been since even before, like I said, World War II. This has been since archetypes and stories from ancient times. One of the most prominent in Western culture, because we're kind of so Christian centered in our culture, is the son of the morning. So in the book of Isaiah, actually, it talks about Satan being referred to as the son of the morning. And they're perfectly white. They have great bone structure and facial features. And you can see that here. And so they're very tempting, right? And that's where that idea of temptation comes from. We want to be perfect. We want to have perfect jaw lines and structure and all white and, shiny and new. But the danger there is the counterbalance to that perfection is absolute death and zero empathy. If you want something to be perfect, you can't care for anybody. You have to kill everyone. And so that's really where this comes from. And this is in a lot of cultures. I'm just picking on Christian culture because it's oftentimes the most familiar with many of my followers and with many of those in Western America. But you can see, like, Isaiah chapter 14, you can look more into it. But they're called Shining One, Son of the Morning. And you can see they're pretty shiny, like pretty well looking individuals. Um, so that's something to really pay attention to. And one of the things that makes the character of Vecna so compelling because it connects with that very long term story archetype. Um, this again is the hero of Devil May Cry. His name's Akira, right? But think about this. You would think this would be the bad character, but again, this character works as the hero because they are darker. They struggle with their own sinfulness, their own evil side, and so because of that struggle, they actually come out as more balanced, and they come out as the hero. If you think about even like Harry Potter, one of the things that's very important about Harry Potter is that he comes from the the shadow side, right? He could have been a Slytherin, and he has parcel tongue. He's able to talk to the snakes. That's actually really, really important, and you see that even in Stranger Things because 11 has the same powers as Vecna, and even in this show, Devil May Cry, um, Akira has his father is the devil, right? And so he has that devil man demon part inside of him. You might think that that's just clever story writing, but it's not. You see this all throughout ancient stories and archetypes. In order for someone to save what is evil and what is broken, they have to connect with that evil and brokenness inside of them. And think about your life. Think about my life as a therapist, right? In order for me to help others, I have to confront my own brokenness. In order for me to understand why someone might hurt another human being, I have to connect with that evil inside of me so I can empathize and then change. It's only through connecting with the evil that's within each of us that we can accept it, not in order to make the world a bad place, but we can accept it so that way we can learn how to change the world around us. And that's what's really, really cool. The bravery of change, the bravery of being able to make a difference is actually an evil act. Creation, art, creativity is evil. And so I'm saying it's evil because in order to impose your will on the world, in order to make a positive change, you have to recognize that changing something makes you the bad guy. And so, unless you are empathetic and kind about you being the bad guy, you become the very thing that you wished to destroy. And you've heard that saying in movies from time and time again. So, I just wanted to take a moment to kind of share that with you. I thought it was very, very interesting. I thought it might be something that you'd like to know and that you might talk about. We can go into it more. Stay tuned for more episodes that I'm going to be showing on this. Check out my dream app if you are interested in understanding the interpretation of your dreams. And of course, if you don't mind terribly, please subscribe, hit that bell button, check us out for next time. And until then, take care of yourselves. Peace.